A reading from the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verses 1 through 13. Very truly, I tell you, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the gate, but climbs in by another way is a thief and a bandit. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out.
When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will not follow a stranger, but they will run from him because they do not know the voice of strangers. Jesus used this figure of speech with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them.
So again, Jesus said to them, very truly, I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand, who is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away, and the wolf snatches them. The hired hand runs away because the hired hand does not care for the sheep.
Holy wisdom, holy word.
Thanks be to God.
I don't really know much about sheep because I'm from the part of New Jersey that supports no organic life forms. But I do know a lot about little white Shih Tzus who look like sheep that were put in the dryer and shrunk. A few weeks ago, I took my 3 diminutive sheep-like dogs to our regular groomer. Sadly, the groomer who had always clipped and cleaned them was on vacation. She is a gentle, kindly groomer who manifestly loved my furry creatures and whom they loved back. As soon as she would come to get them, they would trot off merrily without glancing back at me at all. But on this day, there was a substitute groomer who was a stranger to them. What is more, she was grumpy. She exuded the sense that taking care of these dogs was a vexing inconvenience. My canines, who are very intuitive, in a way that I am not, could smell her displeasure. When she tried to take them back to the grooming room, they resisted, dug in their paws, and looked back at me imploringly, struggling to get away from her. To express her displeasure, Sophie, my most demonstrative critter, squatted on the groomer's foot. And, you know. The sad thing is that the groomer was wearing sandals. They simply would not follow the new groomer. Why? They sensed that she did not love them. And so it goes with Jesus' parable. Jesus, as good shepherd, or the good groomer, has a long pedigree in Christian history. In various eras and cultures, in the catacomb art of the first century, where Jesus was depicted as a vigorous young athlete, clad in gladiatorial boots, who effortlessly slung sheep around his neck and could take on any sheep predators. Jesus as the Good Shepherd returned in the Victorian era, with a new Jesus, who is kinder and gentler, oozing compassion for his fluffy flock. Whenever Jesus as shepherd gets any airplay, Christian leaders have also imagined themselves as shepherds. It's only natural to conclude that if Jesus is the shepherd, then those who minister in his name are reflections of that shepherd role. It's significant that the American church historian David Hall titled his magisterial study of the Puritan ministry, "The Faithful Shepherd." In fact, the word pastor is derived from the Latin word for shepherd. The term was deliberately applied by Calvinists to authorized ministers to differentiate their guiding style of religious leadership from that of the sacramental Roman Catholic priests. In the late 17th century, the term pastor was popularized by a widely read book, The Reformed Pastor, not the Reformed preacher, not the Reformed priest, not even the Reformed minister, by the Congregationalist minister Richard Baxter. But why fixate on shepherds? Why does the Gospel of John describe Jesus as a shepherd? And why have Christian traditions used the word to denote church leaders? What is it about shepherds that is so significant? What is it that shepherds do? What characteristics do they exhibit? Let's approach this by the via negativa. Let's start with what a good shepherd is not. Of course, in the passage we just heard, the contrast term to the good shepherd is the thief, the stranger, and the hired hand. So what's so bad about thieves, strangers, and hired hands? Well, first, the hired hand watches over the sheep for an extrinsic reward, for a wage, for money. Now, what would be the analog to contemporary ministry? Well, it's not that church leaders are in the vocation for money. If your motivation for going into ministry was to make big bucks, you are going to be sadly disappointed unless you aspire to be a televangelist. But is there any other extrinsic reward that ministers these days might seek? For some folks, it might be power. Still, in some Christian cultures, and once upon a time in most Christian cultures, ministers wielded enormous cultural power. When they spoke about a local political issue, the community listened. When they said that the school budget needed to be raised, the town council and the school board felt the pressure. When Reinhold Niebuhr spoke to Harry Truman, the president listened. Often doctors and lawyers would provide their services to ministers gratis, for they were fellow professionals. In my hometown, both the Baptist minister and the Catholic priest would get free fill-ups at the gas station. I sometimes wore a collar just to... The minister was a town patriarch, and I mean patriarch, and the power was intoxicating. Those days are gone, but not always forgotten. Some folks still go into ministry, mostly for the cultural esteem, the prestige. Some still aspire to get big steeple churches, to have large congregations, to get myriad hits on the church website, or to become a bishop. Maybe even more common is the desire to get affirmation. We all want to have our gifts affirmed, our accomplishments recognized, and even more importantly, to be liked. According to Henry Nouwen, we are insatiable little affection sponges. And that affection is an extrinsic reward. The problems with going into ministry for affection and affirmation are legion. If you enter ministry expecting your congregation or your clients to satisfy an emotional need for affirmation and affection, you're going to be dead in the water. You will craft a sermon in order to get accolades from the congregations, and 9 times out of 10, you will not be proclaiming God's word. If you gauge your counseling to elicit a grateful response from your clients, you will probably not be saying what they really need to hear. And this sometimes leads to anger. If you don't get the affection that you want from your people, then you begin to resent them. You think, what's wrong with these people? They don't appreciate me the way they should. A psychological study of ministers discovered that a disturbingly high percentage of religious leaders have fantasies about harming their congregations. And that leads to a wanting of commitment. If your people don't reward you with the love that you think you need and deserve, then hell with them. So this is what a good shepherd is not. A good shepherd does not do the job for an extrinsic reward, not for money, not for prestige, not for power, and not for affection. All those are extrinsic rewards, and exclusive desire for them is a disqualification for ministry. So how is the good shepherd different from the thief, the stranger, and the hireling? Well, John's Jesus is very clear about this. A good shepherd loves the sheep, and that's their motivation. But what does that mean? What does shepherd love involve? Well, this passage stresses knowing the sheep by name. The shepherd cares about each sheep in its glorious particularity, not the flock as a whole, as an amorphous collectivity. I had a political activist friend who said, I love humanity. It's individual people that I can't stand. But the shepherd rejects this attitude. The shepherd loves one sheep for the unparalleled sheen of its fleece, another for the unique melody of its baas, another for the distinctive swagger in its walk. When I was a kid, I had a pet turtle named Spot when I was growing up. Yeah, I know that was a stupid name. I love that turtle. I love the little yellow spot on its forehead, the saggy skin around its knees. I think they're called knees. I heard in the news one day that people in New York City had gone to Florida, bought baby alligators, taken them back home, and when the alligators had grown, they threw them down the toilet, and in the sewers, it was reported, the alligators flourished. So, out of compassion, I decided to send Spot to a better life. I flushed. He swam back to the surface. I flushed again. That time, he didn't come back. And my parents explained that I had killed him. As I wept profusely, my father said, "Don't worry, we'll buy you another turtle." I yelled that I did not want another turtle. I wanted that turtle, the one with the spot on its forehead. And I began to wonder if my parents felt the same way about their children. We can always get another one, yeah. Imagine if you said to your spouse or partner, "I love you because you're an instantiation of the species Homo sapiens," and any other Homo sapiens would do. The Good Shepherd does not love humanity in the abstract, but loves each person in their unsubstitutable quirkiness. Think of the parable of the shepherd who leaves the collectivity of the 99 in order to go after the one sheep that strayed. Secondly, the Good Shepherd does not run away. The Good Shepherd stays with the flock in the midst of danger and distress. And the ultimate evidence that the shepherd is good is that the shepherd is willing to sacrifice everything for the sheep. The shepherd wants the sheep to have abundant life, not the shepherd to have abundant life. It's about the sheep, not the shepherd. In short, the nature of the shepherd's goodness is embarrassingly simple. The shepherd loves the sheep. That is the sine qua non for ministry. Just love your people. Just love your people even when they are unresponsive and mean to you. I feel kind of stupid saying this out loud. You graduates might be thinking, well, if love is all you need, why did I spend all this money on seminary? And you would not be alone in asking this. John Thomas, a former president of the United Church of Christ, said that the secret of faithful and effective ministry is something that cannot be taught. He called it the X factor. It's not the ability to exegete in the original language, nor is it familiarity with doctrinal traditions, nor is it executive leadership styles like the ones taught at Harvard Business School, nor is it the ability to run a successful stewardship campaign, nor is it the ability to move people with your oratory. No, he said, the X factor is simply the ability to care, to value others, to have motives that are not rooted in your own need gratification. And I must admit that the pastors in my own life who have sustained me didn't do it through their theological sophistication or through their homiletical eloquence or through their expertise in social analysis, but just through the fact that they radiated real compassion. I'm sure that at this point, the recruitment office is signaling me to shut up. But I do disagree with Thomas on a couple of crucial points. He's right that seminary education cannot make you loving, and it cannot make you good. But it can be an enabling condition for those things. It can encourage prayer, reflection, spiritual practices, and exposure to literature that can foster love. If you read about love, think about love, talk about love, you might just become more loving. And it can help you love more productively, more wisely, more broadly. Seminary education can help your love vision to be more expansive, more free of cultural restraints. So graduates, don't ask for your tuition money back. And I know most of you graduates. I know that it was not extrinsic rewards that has motivated you. You know ministry is not a high-income career. You know that it's not high prestige. You know that it's not high power. You know that people may not shower you with unconditional affection. You're not naive. You have been around the ecclesial block a few times. This is not your first rodeo. And you know that there are mean people out there who will squat on your foot. I'm trying to get that image out of my mind. Okay, yeah. You would not have gone into this venture if you had not wanted to love your flock. So with the grace of God, you may discover that there are some sheep, or at least a Shih Tzu or two, who will hear the love in your voice and catch that love, and themselves reflect that love enacted by the ultimate Good Shepherd. Amen.